I get a little unhappy and concerned when I hear some highly motivated individual stand up and say, man, with positive thinking, you can just do anything, folks. That simply is not true. That is not positive thinking. That is new age thinking. How many of you would rate me as being positive, optimistic, and upbeat? Can I see you well? That's what I am. I really am. But I got to tell you, if you need major surgery, I don't recommend me now. I'd do the best I can. I'd be positive, optimistic, and upbeat. But you still die if you think all you got to do is think positive. Then, ladies and gentlemen, you're headed for a downfall. That positive thinking is step one. What positive thinking will do is let you use the ability which you have. That is awesome, but it will not let you use something you do not have. Have positive thinking won't let you do anything, but it will let you do everything better than negative thinking. Will Zig Ziglar was one of the world's most popular motivational speakers. Ziglar was one of 12 children raised by a widowed mother during the Great Depression. He wrote over 25 books, including See You at the Top, and inspired millions of people around the world. In this exclusive training, Ziglar shares with us how to use the power of positive thinking to set better goals, fix your mindset, and change your life. Special thanks to the Ziglar family for partnering with us to release this exclusive content on our YouTube channel. Enjoy. My goodness. What an exciting audience. And I understand out in TV land, they're also having a wonderful time. That's wonderful. That's great. You know, I had always thought of myself as being an optimist. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that take my last $2 and buy a money belt with it. I mean, that's my nature. And then I heard about this lady who was in a retirement home, and she'd been there a few months when a gentleman joined the home, and his luck would have it, first day at lunch, he was seated directly across the table from her. And after a few moments, he started to squirm a little bit, And he looked at her and he said, "Ma'am," "you're staring at me and it's making me uncomfortable." She said, "Well, I just can't help it." And he said, "What do you mean?" She said, "You look so much like my third husband. I absolutely cannot believe it. The color of your eyes, the expression on your face, the color of your hair, your personality, your sense of humor. You look just like my third husband," he said. Third husband said, "How many times have you been married?" She said, "Twice." "Well, music." Now I'd say there's an optimist. I would say that positive thinking is imported. But let me share a little of my story with you. First 2.5 years I was in selling. I was not an overwhelming success. As a matter of fact, I wasn't even a whelming success. Now that doesn't mean I didn't sell a lot. I sold my furniture, sold my car. That is real close to the truth. I've bought gasoline many times, 50 cents worth. At a time, I've had my electricity disconnected, I've had my telephone disconnected, had to turn the car back in, and it's most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me. My first baby was born, hospital, bill was $64. I didn't have $64. I had to get out and make 2 sales to get my own baby out of the hospital. I know what it is to be broke, to be discouraged, to have to make a sale today. If we were going to eat tomorrow, I know what tough times are, how confusing it can be. But one day I went to a meeting, and incidentally this session is increasing productivity and profitability. They go together. The speaker at that particular meeting was a man named P.C. Merrill. Mr. Merrill was addressing 21 of us, but as a practical matter, he was only speaking to me. That's the day my whole world turned around. I am from a small town in Mississippi. I am the 10th of 12 children. I had a picture of myself as a little guy, from a little town who would struggle all of his life. Mr. Merrill made the presentation when it was over. He took me aside. He said, "Zig, I have watched you for the last 2.5 years, and I have never seen such a waste now. Folks, that'll get your attention." I said, "Well, Mr. Meal, what do you mean?" He said, "Z, I believe you could be a great one. I believe you could go all the way to the top. I believe that you could be a national champion. And someday, if you chose to do so, I believe you could become an executive in this company. If you just believed in yourself and went to work on a regular schedule." Want to emphasize a point in 2 years? I had learned how to get prospects. I'd learned how to make appointments, how to conduct demonstration, how to handle objections, and how to close sales. Technically, I was a trained salesperson, but until Mr. Merrill said those words to me, and it was because of his integrity that I chose to believe them. It was absolutely impeccable. He had set all of the records for the company. He had written the training program for the company. Now he taught me nothing new about selling. But when he convinced me that I could be a champion, I walked out of there a totally changed man. I saw myself totally differently. I finished that year the #2 salesman in America out of over 7,000. I had the best promotion the company had, and the next year, I was the highest paid field manager in the United States. 2 years later, I became the youngest divisional supervisor in the 66-year history of that company and set some training records which still stand to this day. The only thing that had changed was the picture I had of myself. And once that picture changes, things begin to change in your life. When you begin to understand that yes, there are some things that we can do. When we learn that failure really is an event. It is not a person that yesterday really did in last night. And today is a brand new day when you understand that. Then we can move forward. And as I indicated earlier, it's not what happened in your past that makes that much difference. You see, the past is important, but it's the way we see our future that's going to make the difference. Now the question is, what can we do effective immediately? That can make a dramatic difference in our productivity and our profitability. You see, everybody works for us. Oh, I know somebody else signs your paycheck. But the reality is, we're each self-employed. And if you don't believe it, just quit producing. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about a very obvious truth. Now let me ask a very serious question. How many of you consider yourself to be honest and at least reasonably intelligent? Could I see your hands, please? All right, now, some hands did not go up. Let me ask you a question. Was it the honesty part or the intelligent part? That now I can relate to the intelligent part. Because I was always in the part of the class that made the top half possible. So, I'll relate to that now. How many of you, honest, intelligent people, as a general rule, get more work done on the day before you go on vacation? Hey, you're listening faster than I'm talking. Then you normally get done in 2 or 3 days. Can I see your hands? Please, all right now. If we can find out why and learn how and repeat it every day. Now give the rest of it without working any harder or any longer. Would we be more valuable to ourselves, our family, our company, and our community? How many of you know that you would? Can I see your hands, please? All right now. Let's take a look, ladies and gentlemen, at what we can do now. To begin with, you have already acknowledged that you are an honest, intelligent person. That's what you've already said now. How many of you, honest, intelligent people, on the night before the day before vacation got out a little of paper and you said to yourself, now tomorrow, you got to do this and this? How many of you did that? Can I see your hands, please? All right now. We call that goal setting. Ladies and gentlemen, short range, but that's goal setting now. Why is goal setting important? David Jensen at UCLA did a study specifically on the people who come here. Me speak at public seminars where people buy tickets to come in. Now we have the Smage Board of America there. We have psychiatrists and truck drivers. We have entrepreneurs and household executives. We have college professors, the military. We have teachers and students and major corporate executives, field managers, salespeople. We have everybody there. And those who set goals earn an average of $7,400 a month. Those who do not set goals, though they have the same information, earn an average of $397 a month. And this is documented in academia now. In addition, these people who set the goals not only earn the additional money, but they're happier and healthier and have more friends and get along better with the folks at home. How many of you have noticed that people who know where they're going, generally speaking, are easier to get along with? Can I see your hands, please? Right, people with direction are that way. In my lifetime, I have never known a depressed person who had specific long-range objectives. You don't have time to be worrying and getting depressed now. Understand? I understand clinical depression. I am still saying that I have never seen a depressed person who had specific long-range goals. Now, once you wrote down what she's going to do the next day, then you got it organized. This is the first most important. This is second. This is third. Is that about what most of you do? Let me encourage you to make one small change. Don't put down the most important. Put down the most disagreeable as number one. Now, for example, if you gotta go tell Charlie some bad news and Charlie's number 5 on the list, you finish number 1, and you know what's in the back of your mind. Gotta deal with Charlie. Finish number 2. I gotta talk to Charlie. Get him out of there. Put him number 1 as a old boy down home and say, friend, if you going to have to swallow a frog, you just don't want to look at that sucker too long. I mean, he ain't gonna get no prettier. You can count on it. As a matter of fact, he's going to get uglier. Go ahead and get it done. And then you accepted the responsibility. Barbara Tuchman. 2-time you little surprised. Weiner noted historian says, the number one need in our society today are people who will accept responsibility for their behavior and their performance. It is not his fault, her fault, or their fault. It is your responsibility. Once you accept that responsibility, then you make the commitment. You know, it's my job. If I don't do it, somebody is going to have to. I make the commitment to do it. You know, most people are about is committed as a kamikaze pilot on his 39th mission. I mean, you know, they just really don't take it that seriously. You got to have that commitment, and the next day you show up on time. As a matter of fact, you might be a little early, wouldn't you? Okay, now in addition to that, when you get there, you really get started on it. You don't stand around and say, well, wonder what I ought to do now. You get busy on, I'm here to tell you the boss likes people that get there on time and get busy. This helps to ensure employment security in a world where job security doesn't exist, and you're enthusiastic about it. I mean, on the way to your job that day, you were talking to yourself all the way there. You know, the first thing I'm going to do when to get there is this, and then I'm going to do this, and then we talk to ourselves all the time anyhow. Dr. Joy Brother says, people who talk to themselves are above average in intelligence. U.S. Air Magazine, March 1990, said that what you say to yourself has a direct bearing on your performance. People talk to themselves all the time. How many of you even talk to golf balls? Can I see your hand go in the hole? Hang in there. Turn left. Hold up. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? All right now, you say the right things though. You're saying I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and then I'll do that. That's the kind of self-talk that makes a difference. You're enthusiastic. You're somewhat like little Johnny. Now, little Johnny is a second grader. One Friday afternoon, teacher said, now Johnny, our class this weekend, if anything exciting happens, tell us about it on Monday morning. Well, on Monday morning, you know, little Johnny was sitting there in his little desk and he was all over the place. So the desk was sitting still. She said, Johnny, looks like you had a good weekend. Yes, ma'am, sure did. What'd you do, Johnny? Me and my daddy went fishing. We see 75 catfish. They all weigh 75 lbs now, Johnny. So, son, you know that's not true. Oh, yes, ma'am. It is said. My dad is a great fisherman. I'm even better than he is. We caught 75 catfish. They all weighed 75 pbs. Now, Johnny, if I were to tell you that on the way to school this morning about 2 blocks from here, all of a sudden a big old 1200 lb grizzly bear reared up. Right in front of me, was about to grab me and eat me up. When this little old 8 pb yellow dog appeared out of nowhere, jumped up, grabbed the grizzly bear by the nose, threw him down, bounced him back and forth, broke his neck, killed him dead. Johnny, would you believe that he said, oh? Yes, ma'am, he said, as a matter of fact, that's my dog. Music. Now get enthusiastic about what you do now. Having said that, let me also put this mild disclaimer in there. Enthusiasm is great, but it's like running in the dark. You might get there, but you might get killed on the way, unless you have done what you did the night before. That is, you developed a plan of action. And that's so important. And, you know, as you got started, that old PMA, that positive mental attitude was going full speed ahead. I don't believe there's anybody in this country that is excited about positive thinking as I am. And I think one of the reasons for that is I understand what it will do, but I also understand what it won't do. Do I get a little unhappy and concerned when I hear some highly motivated individual stand up and say, man, with positive thinking, you can just do anything, folks? That simply is not true. That is not positive thinking. That is New Age thinking. Now, New Age thinking simply says, in essence, all is one, and one is all. And I am God. God. Well, there are 3 things I know. Number 1, there is a God. Number 2, it ain't me. Number 3, it ain't you either. Let's get real. How many of you would agree that David Robinson is an optimistic, upbeat, positive thinking guy? Can I see your hands, please? All right, I agree with you. On top of that, he's a wonderful gentleman now. David Robinson has that wonderful attitude, but I got to tell you, he would be a total and complete failure as a music jockey. Would you agree with that? I don't care how positive he thinks he can't do that. How many of you would rate me as being positive, optimistic, and upbeat? Can I see your well, that's what I am. I really am. But I got to tell you, if you need major surgery, friend, I don't recommend me now. I'd do the best I can. I'd be positive, optimistic, and upbeat. But you'd still die now. Hear the rest of this because you see, folks. Unrealistic expectations are the seedbed of depression. If you think all you got to do is think positive, then ladies and gentlemen, you're head for a downfall. That positive thinking is step one. What positive thinking will do is let you use the ability which you have. That is awesome, but it will not let you use something you do not have. Positive thinking won't let you do anything, but it will let you do everything better than negative thinking will. Can you and ULE by that? No problem. See what you're doing on the day before vacation. Your positive thinking is permitting you to use the ability which you have. See, positive thinking works like this. When we walked into this room, it was pitch black. You know how they lighted it? Simplest thing I've ever seen in my life. All they did was throw switches, just flip switches, and the room's lighted. Now, why is that? Well, very simple. The electricity already been generated and flipping the switch released it to come into this room. That's what positive thinking does. The youngster who is not studied for the test can think all the positive thoughts he wants to, but if he goes in that classroom unprepared, he's going to flunk that sucker. You can absolutely count on it. Positive thinking releases the information which you have. If you don't have it, there's nothing there to release. Positive thinking is the enormously important, and you focus on the issue at hand. And as you finish one, you decisively move to the next one now. When I say decisively move, I don't mean you get in a run for there, but you quickly move to another. Now let me tell you something. This is where leadership prevails, and this is where productivity just really balloons upward. I want to emphasize a point. When Lloyd Benson was senator, he said that for every 1% increase in productivity, 1 million new jobs were created. When Mosbach was Secretary of the Treasury, he said that for every 1 billion due in export, there were 20,000 jobs created. Now, you mentioned that you did 2 or 3 times as much work the day before you went on vacation is normal. What I'm talking about here is 1 or 2% increase. What I'm talking about is something that when you finish a task, you decisively move to the next one. And here's where your value to your company dramatically goes up. Because other people, whether you know it or not, are watching you. And when you move decisively, instead of trying to cut you off at the past, they literally will move aside and let you go. That's a literal truth. How many of you have noticed that, as a general rule, people with nothing to do want to do it with you? Now, other people will see you doing these things, and they will pick up the pace without even being aware of it. You know, there's an old saying, people won't believe everything you say, but they'll believe everything that you do. I'd like to see if we can demonstrate the validity of the statement. Would you mind just emptying your hands just for a moment? Those of you who are watching it on satellite out in TV land, I want you to do the same thing now. What I'm going to do is this. I'm simply going to say 1, 2, 3, go. Then I want you to slap your hands. Okay. 1, 2, 3, music. Go, folks. I don't know how I could have made it in the clearer. I slowed down the instructions, I demonstrated them. You completely ignored what I said, but you did exactly what I did. The example, ladies and gentlemen, is so enormously important, and you discipline yourself. If somebody came along and wanted to talk about the playoff games or last night's TV show, you said, look, I got to do this. Let me tell you, discipline is one of the most beautiful words ever. The word discipline is one that ought to bring on, smiles instead of frown. C.L. Stone expressed it best in her beautiful book, The 25-Hour Woman. Discipline is not on your back, needling you with imperatives, that's your side, encouraging you with incentives. Did you know that 175 of the CEOs of the Fortune 500 companies, or former United States Marines, Did you realize that 26 of our presidents served in the military? And you tell me, what do they teach in the military? It's discipline and focus and decisiveness and goals and organization and responsibility. They teach all of these things. These are the qualities that make a good salesperson, a good husband, a good wife, a good doctor, a good lawyer, a good mechanic, whatever. Now understand, the doctor's still got to go to medical school to acquire the specific skills, but look at the qualities. You stayed with one until you finished it. You were persistent. You became a team player, as we mentioned. And your energy level at the end of that day was high, real high. You're so tickled with what you'd been able to do, man. Alive, when you're the most exhausted. That's at the end of the day, when you've had to try to fool the boss that you really are busy. Or if you are the boss, you've tried to fool the troops that what you're doing is very important at the end of a day like that. You said, boy, I don't know if I can handle a deal like this much longer. Your energy level was high. You felt so good about yourself, and you were so motivated. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you look at those qualities right there, how many of those are positive qualities? Anybody? How many leadership qualities? Now, you do understand that I've been talking about you according to what you told me on your day before vacation. So you have got every last one of them, plus a whole bunch more. Now, a lot of people deny they have these good qualities because according to, or Ear Loomis, to recognize that you have these abilities commits you to use them. So a lot of people deny them. They're in denial. They think the Nile is just a river in Egypt. They don't really, look at these things and plan on using them now. These qualities would make a good husband, a good wife, or whatever. Let me emphasize a point. Ladies and gentlemen, what would happen if everybody in your family and everybody in the company got on the page? We're talking about, can't you just imagine an incredible explosion of business? Can't you imagine teamwork developing to the degree that you're even more productive and serve even more people, remembering, of course, that you really can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, Ziga, how do you get everybody on the same page? Won't that take training? Yes, it will. Every once in a while, I'll have somebody say, why should I train my people and then lose them? Well, there's one thing worse than training people and losing them, and that's not training them and keeping them. I'm here to tell you, now that gets expensive. We have 60 people on our staff, 20 of them sell 40 of them are other speakers and trainers, and